So I found myself a good place to begin getting familiar with this new planet, Escalor, with this ranch. And I am speaking with JJ, the ranch hand, because he really knows what's going on and he grew up on the ranch and he's very proud of the ranch and he is very protective of the ranch as well, like I said. So this is a, basically a my memory of talking with JJ. I turned to JJ and smiled. So, where shall we start? I asked cheerfully. Follow me. JJ was not pleased with what he had observed and was just a tiny bit jealous. He was absolutely sure that I was somehow connected to the outcasts. And the outcasts, of course, are a nation of people that we have not been fully introduced to in the story yet, but they live out in the desert and don't have a very good reputation. He didn't really want to be rude, he just wasn't in the mood to be friendly. And it was getting hot and would be hotter before the day was out. He pointed to the big piece of machinery in the shed. Here's the harvester, and here are the tools. Some of them are over here on the bench, and some are over in the barn. The last guy who worked on this thing had everything spread out all over creation. I think he even found a technical manual for this beast somewhere around here in the barn. Um, it's either on the bench or probably on the floor. Nothing has been moved since he was here last year. If you get thirsty, there's a water spigot over there across the yard. Well, a water spigot was really not a familiar thing to me because I come from a planet that has no surface water, and we have to go deep inside the planet for water. So our water system is a bit different. Anyway, tell you more about that here in a little bit. I said to him, "You've been around quite a bit, haven't you, JJ?" I just stated it as a statement rather than a fact. Um, I believe it took him off guard. I said to him that I saw that he knows the farm really well. And I told him I would be really honored if he would help me get to know the chores and the ranch and the workings of the ranch so that I can help wherever I can. I was simply being sincere and direct. JJ responded to me. He said, "Well, yeah, if you want, I can give you the nickel tour after supper. Right now, we both have work to do." He took off toward the feed corrals, and I said, "Okay, yes, you're right, of course. We can take a walk after supper." I kind of smiled to myself about JJ, and I said about my work. The first thing I needed to do was to get that manual and read it cover to cover, because by reading the manual, I would know what the machine was all about. And that's first, of course, when you're working with a machine. Get familiar with it. I stepped slowly but firmly through the side door of the barn, where JJ had indicated the tools in the manual would be. As my eyes became accustomed to the darker interior of the barn, I was immediately impressed with the quality of the structure. It must have been several hundred years old. Its beams and poles were massive and as hard as iron, indicating great age. They must have come from a distant place or a now extinct local forest. Anyway, the men who built it were craftsmen who obviously took great pride in their work and were not afraid to invest time and care to produce such a fine structure. I liked them even though I had never met them. I believe, as all Torvians do, that a person's work tells society who he or she is. The results of their labor help them live on after they have died and gone to their rest. I found the manual under a rag which was covering it to protect it. It was, of course, a very thick book with many chapters, technical drawings, and operating instructions. It was similar to the old technical manuals that I had seen that my father had brought from Torvis. Um, Actually, my father had brought from Mars. Um, these manuals had come with the original colonists and had been carefully preserved for several centuries. I found a good seat on an old feed box next to a dusty window so I would have a little bit of light. I took the rag and wiped the window to get better light for reading. Then I looked around for a table or something to use as a desk. As I was searching for just the right thing, I straightened and cleaned as I went from the bench to the floor and into the tool room. It was obvious to me no one had taken the time to clean and arrange here for many years. So I took it upon myself to make this area my workshop and personal area. I would also use it to study what I needed to learn to become part of my surroundings and blend in as if I had always been there. It seemed like only a few minutes of time had passed when Morella called for lunch. I wasn't sure how to proceed, but decided to follow JJ's lead. I found JJ at the water trough, washing his big rancher's hands, splashing his face and hair with literally gallons of cool, clear water. The water ran steadily from the water pipe into the trough, spilling over as JJ plunged his arms in up to his armpits, repeatedly splashing his face. I had never seen anything like it and stood in silent awe at the sight. JJ gave me a slightly disgusted look. Come on in, man, the water's fine. Lunch won't be waiting for us. Dig in here and wash up. Ms. Morella, don't let nobody get to the table dirty. And you better brush off your shirt, too. He stood erect, grabbed a towel from a rack behind the trough, and dried his face and arms. Nothing like a good wash after hard work, eh, Lovar? He was not being very subtle in his assessment of me. I agree with you wholeheartedly, JJ, I said. I rolled up my sleeves and tested the water. It was cool and clear and sweet. I felt like a young child learning a new task for the first time. My excitement was so near the surface, I had to fight to keep it in check. I wanted to screech like a orca, just for the sheer joy of seeing this much water meant only for washing and splashing. I had only dreamt of such an exquisite pleasure. My wash was only a small thing, but one of the most meaningful of my time on Escalor. It was my first real experience with the unbounded gifts this planet had to offer. I took so long that JJ had to call me twice to come in for lunch. I apologized for taking my time at the wash, but I had been working in that dirty old barn and felt quite filthy. At least that was the excuse I used. So, what did you do in that old barn all morning? Morella used her best ranch boss tone with me. I figured you'd be all over that harvester by now. When do you expect to get to work on it? I ignored the question and took a direction all my own. With another of my disarming smiles, I asked, do you prefer to be called Ms. Morella or Miss Woodson or just plain boss? Morella was once again taken off guard. Well, I don't mind Ms. Morella. That's what JJ calls me. Only the people in town call me Miss Woodson, and only if it's formal. My friends call me just Morella. My oldest girlfriends call me Ella. She was obviously shocked at how easily this man got her to talk about herself. Well, then, Ms. Morella it is. I will follow JJ's lead since he is the ranch foreman and knows a whole lot more about things around here than I will probably ever know. He glanced at JJ. I glanced at JJ, who was concentrating on his lunch but had a very satisfied look on his face. As a matter of fact, I was arranging myself a small shop to work out of so that I can be able to give the task my complete attention. I also have been reading the manual JJ told me about, and I'm delighted with how comprehensive it is. I should know all there is to know about that old girl in a very short time. I will begin to locate the tools and study the harvester some more this afternoon. By the way, what is this delicious vegetable? I was testing my palate for the food of the planet. I couldn't expect to live on crystal powder for the duration of my visit. I would use it only as a supplement to the local fare. Well, that's what we grow in our fields. We call it a potato. I'm glad you like it, but I'm confused as to why you don't know what it is. Where exactly are you from? She had a firm and searching gaze fixed on me. I'm from all the way across the desert. We don't have anything like this in my part of the planet. Really? Morella seemed to accept my answer, and JJ was not the least bit concerned about our conversation. He was interested in getting himself fed. I don't mean to be ungrateful or rude, but what kind of vegetable is this other dark-colored substance? I asked her. Morella looked up, irritation showing plainly in her eyes. That, my friend, is what we call meat. We breed and grow our own here on the ranch. It's what we call beefsteak. Don't tell me you have no meat where you come from. That must be a very strange place. I just smiled at the sarcasm. Why, no, where I come from, we are vegetarians. I'd been told of the eating of animal flesh by my father and the other ancients back on Torvis, but I had thought it was a barbaric habit practiced by social deviants. Evidently, it was quite commonplace and a widely accepted food source. I would simply avoid it and not make an issue of it. On Torvis, we do not have the means or the capability or even the animals, besides which we would not kill our friends to eat them. Coming from a ageless society with telepathic powers, animals are our family, our associates, our friends. They are not food source. We will talk about the operation, the repair and operation of the harvester named Jezebel in our next episode.